All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how to take a data visualization that came out of Python or Jupyter Notebook and clean it up in Illustrator. So in our last video, we ran some Python code in a notebook. We took a list of countries from a CSV. We used pandas and plotnine, which is ggplot, but for Python. And then we built this slightly ugly visualization. We saved it as countries.svg, and that's the file that we're going to be editing today. Because this file right here, this image is not good enough to publish, but we'll turn it into something that is high quality publishable. Then we're going to export it from Illustrator with the tool ai2html, which we covered in our last video. So first thing I'm going to do is actually close this file, because it's important to know what happens when you open up this SVG. I'm going to drag this on down to Adobe Illustrator, and it is going to start to yell at me. Before it's even shown me the file, it's going to say, no, something's gone wrong. The following items could not be imported properly. It's fine, just click OK. Then it's going to say, hey, fonts that were used in this SVG file, we don't have them. I don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to substitute other fonts for them. And we say, okay, that's fine. Click OK. Here we go. So ignore both of those errors. They will be fine. We'll make our way through this. Don't worry. Now, first thing you want to do is make sure that your setup in Illustrator is somewhat similar to mine. The way we're going to do that is going to Window, Workspace, and making sure you have Essentials selected. If you have Essentials selected, you'll have the same sort of thing over here and the same sort of thing over here. Yours might have less tools on it over here. The toolbar. The way to get the toolbar to have this many objects in it is if you go Window, Toolbars. I think Basic might be the default where it has a few less tools. In order to switch between them, you have to hold it down, and then it'll give you the other options. But we'll just say, hey, we're all advanced here. We want all of those extra tools. All right, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here and I'm going to select the black arrow. There are two kinds of arrows that we can use for selecting content that is on the page for Illustrator. There's the black arrow and the white arrow. This is the selection tool, the black arrow, and the white arrow is the direct selection tool. The direct selection tool allows you to be a little bit more of a power user in Illustrator, but it's also really easy to screw things up and accidentally move pieces around that you didn't mean to. Like for example, we might have a shape like a circle or a line, and we want to move the whole line all at once. The white arrow allows us to move part of the line, and everything's complicated and bad. So just for now, unless you're an Illustrator Pro, stick with the selection tool pretty much all the time. Now, click that black arrow and you say, okay, I'm ready to start doing things, and you click and you drag because you're going to move something, and suddenly the whole image moves. Now, by default, when you save an SVG in ggplot or plotnine or matplotlib or Altair, any of these things, it automatically groups together all of the content that is on the file. So even if I just want to select, let's say, Africa over here, this one little bit of text, if I click it, it then selects everything that is on the page. If I want to click this one single circle here, and then selects everything on the entire page, that's not what we want. One way around this would be to use the direct selection tool, and that would enable me to just click Africa, to just click this circle, things like that. But like I said, it's also easy to screw things up when you're using the direct selection tool. So I'm going to go back to the selection tool, and I'm going to show you why this is happening. If I click over here on the right by layers, and I expand, this is all of the grouping that is being done on our file. So this little circle right here is inside of this group, 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 and it's just like a bunch of stuff and a bunch of stuff and a bunch of stuff, and we just want to make that go away. We want every single thing on this page to be independent of one another. The way we're going to do that, select all. So select from the top menu and then all. It's going to grab everything on the page, and we're going to say we don't want this stuff grouped together. I'm going to say object, ungroup, object, ungroup, object, ungroup. And you see on the right hand side under layers, every single time I say ungroup, it gets a little bit flatter over there on the right. So you're going to keep running ungroup until you can't run ungroup anymore. Sometimes this takes a while, maybe 6 or 7 clicks. So what I like to do instead is use the shortcut key, which on a Mac is Shift-Command-G. You can see it on the right here. So I hold down Command, Shift, and just tap G a bunch of times until I can no longer run ungroup. On the right hand side under layers though, we see that there are still some groups here. They're not normal groups though. They're things called clipping masks. What we want to do is remove these clipping masks too. So select all, it's going to select everything on the page, and then object, clipping mask, release. Object, clipping mask, and there's no more to release. There's nothing else to ungroup. So now we are finally ready to start grabbing things around and moving them and cleaning up our graphic. All right, we don't really care about layers over here, at least not yet. What we're going to be using a lot of is this properties box over here. So make sure instead of layers, you're going to be on properties. Otherwise, when I start to fool around over here, you might not see what's going on. All right, first off, I want to delete things that I do not want. Even though we worked hard putting a title on this graphic, I'm going to delete the title. When we export this to ai2html, generally speaking, depends on your newsroom, you usually put the title in the HTML of the web page, not on the actual graphic. So it's fine if we delete it. I'm also going to delete life expectancy as the axis label over here and GDP per capita on the axis label there. So got rid of that text. We're going to clean up, I guess I'll remove the word continent here. We're going to clean up this legend over here. We're going to move it to the top. We're going to move around our axes, all kinds of things, but I just wanted to clean up some stuff first. Now, in our newsroom, there are probably some sort of rules. Rules like the colors these circles need to be, rules like the size of these fonts, and one of the big rules you're going to come across is the size of the exported graphic. Many newsrooms will have several different sizes, maybe one that's small and for mobile and one that's bigger and for desktop, but for this situation here, we're just going to have one. I'm going to say that in our newsroom, all of our graphics need to be 780 pixels wide. If I want to make a graphic that is 780 pixels wide, I need an artboard that is 780 pixels wide. An artboard is this thing in the background. It's kind of the canvas that you are drawing on in Illustrator. The way that we're going to do this though is we're not going to change the size of this one here. We're just going to make a new one. I'm going to click the artboard tool over here on the left, and then I'm going to go down here and click and drag and roughly get this out to about 780 pixels. How big did this end up being? Here, I'm going to delete it and I'm going to show you that again. As I click and drag, you can see that the width changes and it's keeping me apprised of how wide this artboard is going to be. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really care how big it's going to be because after I draw it, I can just go over here and say, you're going to be 780 pixels wide. And then it will then be 780 pixels wide. I'll then, make this a little bit taller. In a newsroom generally, width is what matters because width is dependent on whether you're on a phone, whether you're on an iPad, whether you're on a desktop, whereas the height is not that big of a deal. Most of your graphics are going to be roughly the same height, except maybe mobile ones are going to be tall, but it's fine. I'm then going to move our graphic, the main body of our graphic, over here. I guess I'll pull all of it. Why not? I'm going to say, all right, all of you. I click, dragged, and selected all of it. I also could say select all, but more often than not, you're going to find me clicking and dragging in order to pull all of it over here. So I pull it all over, and I plop it down right in the middle of my artboard down here. If I don't want this old artboard anymore, I can go back to the Artboards tool. I can click it, and then I can just hit delete and it'll go away. Now when we export from from Python, like I said, I like to click and drag in order to select things. If you try to click and drag to select on this though, something weird's going to happen. If I go to click and drag, suddenly there's this big square box moving around. When you export from Python, whether it's matplotlib, whether it's plotnine, I don't think this is the case with Altair, but it is at least the case with plotnine. There is a background, a big white square that comes along with our graphic. We don't want that there because we already have a background of nothingness. We don't need to add this white background here. So the first thing that I'm going to do after I move everything to my new artboard is just click this background, hit delete. Doesn't look like anything changed, but now I can click and drag in order to select things. So my life is a little bit easier. All right, let's get to cleaning up. Other rules that will exist beyond just the size of our artboard is probably the size of all of our axis labels and all of our legends and all of our text that goes onto our graphic. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click this 80. I want to change the size of this 80, this 60, this 40, this 0, and all the other text on here. I'm going to ignore this text over here for now because we're going to delete it. But click this. I want to select all of these at the same time. So I'm going to hold down Shift, click, keep holding down Shift and clicking each of these one at a time. And there we go. We have them all selected and I can change the text size. A couple other ways of doing this. I can click the 80 and then I can say, hey, select the same font size. And it'll select everything on the page that is the same font size as whatever I have selected. I could also have done select object all text objects, and it will select everything on the page that is a text object. So if I just want to select a few of these, I can click and then hold Shift and grab the other ones. If I want to select ones that are similar in terms of font size, if I want to select, all the text on the page, all of these are different options in order for me to grab all this text. So I'm just going to say select object, all text objects. For my newsroom, which I'm inventing right now, all of our text needs to be 14 pixels big, or 14 point text. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to change this to be 14 point. And whenever you do the spacing between lines, it doesn't really matter in this case, but it should be roughly 2 pixels bigger than what your actual text size is. So there we go, 80, 60, 40, 0, blah, blah, blah. We will line these up a little bit better later on, but for now, we'll just push them over to the side a little bit. Okay, great. Now let's get to more deleting. I don't want this big box that's going around all of my content, so I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit delete. Okay, I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit delete, and it still seems to be there. Usually, when you want to select things, after you've exported from Python, there's going to be a lot of like invisible lines or lines that are there that you can click that don't actually show anything. I find the easiest way to select something, even if it seems to just be this one black line or this one box, is clicking and dragging. So clicking and dragging will select that line along with whatever comes with it. Select it, hit delete, then it's gone. Life is good. I'm also going to move this legend off of my artboard so I have it for reference, but it's not going to be hanging out where I'm trying to draw. So I'm going to click it, hit delete, that's fine, leave it over there. Let's say in my newsroom we don't put axes on the left, we put them all on the right. So I need to move all of these to the right hand side. A few different ways of doing this. One issue is, let's say we select all of them and then we move them on over to the right. If you move them over here, you might struggle to get them to line up with the original versions. If you need them to be in the exact same position, you need to hold down Shift And if you hold down shift, it's going to move it directly over. So hold down shift and it will line up precisely horizontally where we were originally. So wonderfully enough, it's now over here. I want to take, these little lines here. I hate these little lines, these little tick marks down at the bottom. I want to get rid of them. How am I going to do it? Do I click it, hit delete, click it, hit delete, click it, hit delete? I mean, sure, if I like doing repetitive tasks. What I should do, if I want to delete these little tick marks though, is I want to click it, and then I'm going to say select, same, and then you're like, fill and stroke, fill color, opacity, nah. First stop is always select same appearance. If every single one of these little tick marks looks roughly the same, they're the same color, they're the same stroke width, things like that, if I do select same appearance, it'll probably just select them. And then I hit delete, and then they're all gone. It's great, it's beautiful. Next thing I'm going to do is I need some tick marks though. I just want them on the right hand side. So I'm going to push over my 80, my 60, my 40 a little bit, and then I'm going to grab this line, and this line. I grab them by holding down shift and clicking. I'm going to pull them over, resize them so that they look nice and short. Short little fat guys over here. And then I'm going to make them black. You can also just type 00, 00, 0, 0 over here. It's looking good. I guess I need them on the top and the bottom too. So I'm going to grab this top and bottom line that was hiding back there, and they're going to automatically snap to be the same size. And then I will also make them 00, 00, 0, 0. And then, we have these other lines here, right here. So that's going to be my 50 and my 70. Same thing. Change it. 00, 00, 0, 0, 0. Perfect. I'm going to take this 80, 60, and 40, and I'm going to move them to be right on top of these lines. Then I need a 90 up here. Actually, we're not going to put a 90 up here. I'm going to get rid of that one. We're just going to do 70, 50, and 30. So I'm going to select my 40, hold down shift, copy, paste, so that my spacing stays the same. And then I'm going to put these in the same place. Now, when I have an axis like this, the rule is going to be, I want it to be 7 pixels above that line. So I put it on the line and I hit up 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I will change this to be 70. I will change this to be 50. And I will change this one to be 30. And this should be 80 years life expectancy. Now, because we move these around manually, I can't actually be sure that they're lined up. Maybe my 70 is a few pixels that way, my 40 is a few pixels that way. It's easy to see in this case because we have eyeballs and we can tell they're not lined up, but there's a good chance that if you're moving objects independently of one another, you can't actually tell whether they are lined up. This is where the Align tool comes in. So I am going to select all of these. And if we look down here, we see the Align tool. I like this when it pops out, so I'm actually going to go to Window, Align, and it's going to pull it out as a separate little window here. So what I want to do is, I can say, hey, line these up all together on the very far left-hand side. Line these up all together on the far right-hand side. Center these all on one another. In this case, I probably want to make them all align left, and then I can move them all at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I know they're all lined up on the left, and I know that, everything is nice and perfect and true with them. I'm going to delete, what do I want to delete? 80, 60, 40. Maybe I don't want these other ones. They cluttered up a little bit. It's fine. It's fine. I'll leave them there. I do want this 30 to go all the way across though, so I'm going to click that, and I'm going to move it all the way over. So there's my nice little bottom axis. Okay, we have 0, 20, 40, 60. What are those? Those are dollars. So I'm going to say I want $60,000 over here, 40,000 and 20,000. In the same way that I only added years to my life expectancy right here, I'm only going to add the dollar sign to my very first GDP measurement over here. It's typically a way it works. It might be based on your newsroom as to whether you put a dollar sign in front of all of them, but it's a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit cleaner. So okay, I need to move all of these up closer to my axis. So I'm going to select them all. I'm going to pull them up, 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 and let's say I'm going to move them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 pixels down from my axis line. Now, where is 60,000 over here? Is 60,000 on the center of this? Is it this line here? Oh no. When we changed this from being 60,000 to $60,000, it realigned where the 60 was because it's drawing from the left instead of drawing from the center. What we need to do is make this 60,000 centered on this line right here. And you say, oh, we just learned how to do this. We're going to use the align tool. And I say, close, close. Let's see what happens if we try to align 60,000 with this line right here. So I'm going to click 60,000, shift click for this line here, and I'm going to say horizontally align the center. Sure, it lined them up, but notice how it moved both the 60 and the axis line right here, and it, this line is no longer valid. This 60 is no longer valid. What we want to do is move the 60 so that it's centered on this line right here, not the other way around. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to click this 60, we're going to click this line here, and we're going to go back into our align options. Now, instead of clicking horizontal align center, we're going to click align to key object. What align to key object means is instead of centering these, between both the 60 and the line, I'm going to say I want you to align it just on that axis line right there. Then I click horizontally align and it moves my 60,000 right on over. I can do the same thing with my 40,000. So I click 40,000, I click the line, I say, hey, align to key object. What's the key object? This line. Great. Do the same thing for 20. Select 20,000, shift click, align to key object. What's the key object? The line's the key object, and then horizontal align center. Yay, it worked great. I guess I'll do it for the 0 as well. Click, shift click, align to key object. What's my key object? It's the line, and then horizontal align center. Now that those are all done, I'm going to delete all of those lines. I do not need them. Instead of clicking delete on them one by one though, I can do this. I can click one of them and I can say select same appearance. It'll select every line that looks similar, delete, and then I have these other lines here and I will do the same thing. I'll click the line, select same appearance. You also maybe can't see them very well because they're pretty light colored lines, but I promise that they're there. Select same appearance, delete, and now I promise that those lines are no longer there. So our axes are looking a little bit cleaner, our years are looking a little bit cleaner, but now I want to change these circles right here. I would like to make these circles bigger. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to just click and drag to select the bulk of the circles, and then to add the other ones to my selection, I will hold down Shift and grab those other two. So I've selected all of them and I want to make them all bigger. I cannot click and drag this corner here. It will make them bigger, but it will also move them out of where this axis lies here. So how do I make them bigger, each of them one at a time? Well, I go to Object, transform each. What that will do is it will apply the same transformation to every single one of these circles individually. So I go to transform each and I say, by default, it looks something like this. What I want to do is scale them horizontally and vertically to be, let's say, 120% of what they were. Because preview is selected, we get a nice little preview there. They're a little bit bigger, maybe 130, 130. That looks pretty good. Yeah, they're a little bit bigger now. Next, I hate this outline. I hate this dark outline. I think that the fill color in the middle is more than enough. So I'm going to select them all again, click and drag, shift, click and drag, and then I'm going to say stroke. How much stroke? 0 stroke. And now they all have 0 stroke. So I clicked the down button on the stroke over here. If you click up, it'll give it a stroke. If you click down, once you hit 0, the stroke will go away. This white box with a slash through it means there is no stroke here. All right, looking good, except for one thing, which is that these colors are awful. These colors are terrible. What I want to do is change all of these colors. Now, your newsroom probably has colors that it uses, or you have colors that you use, or you found a list of colors that are nice that exist in the world. What I want to do is use some colors that are built into Illustrator. I'm going to use what's called a swatch, which is a list of colors. So I'm going to go to Window, and then I'm going to go down to Swatches. Windows, Swatches. Bottom left-hand corner, there's this little library here. Swatch libraries. I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to say, let's say color books, Pantone, pastels, and neons uncoded. Why this? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's all the same. But look at that. They're so nice. They're delightful. What I want to do here is I need to change all of the reds to be whatever red I select here. All of the blues to be whatever blue I select here. All of the awful, ugly yellows to be whatever yellow I select here. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to click one of these reds, and then I'm going to say select same fill color, and it's going to select everything with the same fill color. The fill color is the color that's in the middle, and then I can just say, I like that red right there. And all of them will automatically change to be that pinkish red. I can do the same thing with this ugly yellow. Select same fill color. And then I'll pick this yellow here. It's a little bit brighter now, a little bit nicer. Same thing for the green. Select same fill color. I'll pick this green, and I'll do the same thing for the blue. You know, that blue's a little bit too, let's see, I'll pick a lighter one. That's nice. And then these purples aren't really standing out now. Select same fill color. As all these colors start to look the same whenever you, oh boy, we're in trouble now. It's fine, we'll be all right. These purples now look the same. Select same fill color, and we'll go with this gross brown, because why not? Okay, so are these colors better? Not really, but we're fine. We're okay. Now the issue is we need to take these and move them up here. What I'd like to do is put a legend on top, but the sizing here isn't great. So I'm going to resize this to take up a little bit more of my artboard. So shift enter or shift drag in order to maintain my aspect ratio, because I decided it was a good aspect ratio. And then there we go. That's taking up the right amount of space. The problem is when I just resized, it changed all of my font sizes, right? Now this text is about 18 pixels or 18 point instead of 14. So again, select same, let's say font size, and I'm going to drag it back down to being 18 with a 16 pixel spacing. Additionally, I need to make sure that, like I said, I am 7 pixels above my line here. So I'm going to select these again, go back down to my line, and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Same thing down here. Now, if you hate selecting things or clicking one and then clicking another and clicking another, what you can actually do is put these in a group. So shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, and then object group. If I group all of this text together, I'll show you on the layers tab, there is now a group down here that has all of these in it. If I click one of them with my black arrow, I move all of them all at once. Delightful. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I can do the same thing with these here if I really wanted to, but I don't really see a reason to, so it's fine. All right, so now let me add a legend up above. We're going to do this one at a time. I'm going to group these so that I can move them all at once. And then I'm just going to write them out separately again. So I'm going to grab one of these circles for Africa. I'm going to copy paste, and then I'm going to put some text next to it that says Africa. I'm going to make sure it's 14 pixels by 16 pixels, and there we go. I'm going to push it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I'm going to do one of these for every single one of my continents. So I'm going to have an Africa, I'm going to have an Asia, I'm going to have a Europe, I'm going to have a North America, going to have a South America, I'm going to have a Oceania. Now, you might say, Soma, you pushed these all together in such a weird way, nothing is organized, and I say, it's fine, don't worry, don't worry. Next thing I need to do is change the color of each one of these. So the way I'm going to change the color is I'm going to use the eyedropper tool. Now, because I use select same fill color, every time I change the color of something down here, it also changed the color inside of here as well. So it's like an automatic reference point. So I can select this, and I can say, Oceania, I want to match your color. The color of Oceania is this color right here. If I use the eyedropper tool, do that, select Oceania's circle, eyedropper tool, and then bam, Oceania, circle, now is that color. North America, eyedropper tool, North America color. Done. South America, what color are you? I don't know what that color is, but I know the eyedropper tool will give it to me. Africa, you're already the right color. Asia, eyedropper tool. Asia, deselect. Europe, eyedropper tool. Europe. Perfect, nice, and amazing. Oh, these have stroke on them. That is awful. When I use the eyedropper tool, it pulled both the stroke and the color, sadly. So what I'm going to do is get rid of that stroke. I'm going to say stroke, your stroke is 0 over properties here, and now their stroke is 0. All right, next up, I'm going to put each one of these into a group because it's going to help me line them up. Line them up, group, 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 and group. I did that by holding down Command and pushing G. The other way to do that is Object and then add it to a group. All right, if I want all of these to be on the same line, I want a legend going left to right here. How can I do that? I can use align objects. I can say, hey, align them all vertically. And it looks ugly and it looks awful. And if I want to space them out, there's a really fun way to do that. It's called distribute spacing down here. So they're all lined up on the in a line, and I want to space them out, space them out, space them out. The way I'm going to do this is, if I want to horizontally distribute spacing, I click a key object, it gives me a key object, and I say space them out 10 pixels between them by clicking this button, and it automatically lines them up for me. If I want more spacing between them, I can say, let's make it, 14 pixels of spacing, and it will space them out for me. Look at that. It's beautiful, isn't it? You know what? I'll probably put these in a group together. I'll select them all, object, group. That way, if I need to move it around, if I need to align it left, align it right, something like that, I'll be good to go. All right, one more thing I want us to do. Let's say we are talking about places that have a life expectancy over, let's say, 70 years. I'm going to say, okay, I'm interested in these places that have a life expectancy over 70 years, so I want to highlight that area. How do I highlight that area? I'm going to click here, rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a box. Draw a box all the way across. Now, this box is on top of everything else. I cannot see any of the circles that are hidden underneath it. If I want to be able to see those circles, I'm going to not make it transparent. I am going to object, arrange, send to back. Send to back is going to put it behind everything else. And then I could change the color in order to make it a nice highlight on the back. There are more fun ways to do this, though. A more fun way to do it is to use some sort of pattern back here. So I'm going to go back to my Swatches window over here, and I'm going to click Library, Patterns, Basic Graphics, and go to Basic Graphics Textures. Basic Graphic Textures will pull up these incredibly tiny little things for me to read. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find diagonal lines. Diagonal lines right there, and then look at that. It's beautiful. I've never seen something so nice. A problem with this is that it's a little bit too strong. So if I change the opacity, I can probably make it a little bit lighter. Yeah, there we go. So if I change the opacity of this box, I can get a slightly more approachable hashing there. That looks pretty good. Okay, now we have highlighted, when you zoom out with this one, with the diagonal lines, you will see kind of this weird box pattern show up. That's just an artifact of the way zooming works in Illustrator. When you export it, it won't look like that. Now we've highlighted these countries here because that's the thing that we're really talking about. But notice that this country here, it has a high GDP, but the life expectancy is still in the 60s, not in the 70s, unlike these other countries. So it's something we want to talk about. If we want to talk about this country, we'll have an annotation. So I'm going to click text, and I'm going to say, this country is an important country that we want to talk about. I'm going to make this the annotation size, which is 16, and then I'm going to increase my spacing between lines to be 18. Now, a few different ways we can talk about this country right here. I can just move my text right next to it, and that's good enough. I could draw a line from my text to it, give it a stroke of, let's say, 1 point, make it black, get a line. I could also add a 1 pixel stroke that's black to my actual country so you can see it a little bit better. This is a pretty standard way to do it. I really like swoopy lines though. Swoopy lines seem very nice. Here's what we're going to do. we are going to take a shape. We are going to click and drag on this, and we're going to say I want an ellipse. I'm going to drag out a shape holding shift or holding shift an option in order to make some sort of circle here. Once I have the circle, I'm going to say, what kind of fill do I want? I don't want a fill, so I'm going to click fill and say no fill, but I do want a stroke. I want a stroke of 1 pixel, and I want it to be black. Now, I'm going to turn this into a swoopy line with an arrow. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use the scissors tool, and I'm going to say cut it right here and cut it right here. You can't tell, but it then split this into 2 separate paths. This is now a shape, and this is now a shape. I can delete this one, and then I can change this one to have an arrow on one side. So if I click it, and then I go to my strokes window, which I guess doesn't exist. I'm going to window, stroke. Now I have stroke options. I can pull down arrowhead. I can say, give me, I don't know, arrow 5, point it at that dot right there, and then put this text right next to it. That looks a lot more fun. And the one final thing that I like to do is color matching. If we want to talk about this circle, I can take this text right here, and I can say, you know what? I want to use the eyedropper tool, and I want to match the color with that circle right there. And so now it says this is an important country in the color that that country has. Would it be better to bold it? Would it be better to change the font? Sure, maybe, potentially. But for now, I think this is a pretty good graphic. We're free to export it right now without deleting the legend because it'll only grab what's in our artboard, but I'll delete it just for kicks. And there we go. We have we cleaned up the graphic. It looks a little bit better. Colors are a little bit nicer. We have a little bit of annotating going on. Our axes look better. Our text has more descriptive bits on it. We don't need a title. And yeah, I'd say we're good to go. So if you want to export this using ai2html, pop back over to the other video in the description. It'll show you how to export, and it will show you how to throw it onto a web page. The final thing we need to cover is customizing fonts. So there will be a link about how to do that in the description along with a separate video. Good work.